A gracious good day to one and all once again. 'Tis I, Norton the First, by grace of God, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. Back with you once again for episode 57 of Emperor Norton's fantastic history vlog. Today is May 29, 2020. It is our 75th day under a shelter-in-place order here in San Francisco and throughout the empire. We know we have a number of new viewers today, and a special thanks go out to both Broadcast Stewart and 48 Hills for their recent coverage. And for all the new viewers, welcome. Hope you enjoy it. Well, let's start off with some of the national days today. Today is Put Your Pillow in the Fridge Day. So, put your pillow in the fridge. It is also National Biscuit Day. Ooh, the Countess made some wonderful cheese biscuits last night. Speaking of which, don't forget to join us tomorrow when the Countess and I do our special weekend edition. We got a special surprise for you all this weekend, so make sure to tune in for that. And it is also Paperclip Day. Well, let's begin with our events from local history, as we always do. It was on this date in 1961 that a 27-year-old African-American lawyer filed charges against a real estate salesman for refusing to help him buy a home in San Francisco's Forest Knolls neighborhood. Well, that young lawyer was Willie Brown, who would go on to become the Speaker of the California Assembly for 15 years. 1980 to 1995. I believe he's the person who held that position the longest, but don't quote me on that. Didn't fact check that before I came down. He was also the mayor of San Francisco from 1996 to 2004. Of course, we have been known to run into Mr. Brown on a number of occasions and bear him no personal animosity for the naming of our bridge for him. And once again, we are going to rely on the book This Date in San Francisco by John Ralston for our second item today. For it was on this date in 1907 that the bubonic plague returned to San Francisco. Of course, the last bubonic plague epidemic was in 1900. But let's... Oops, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. Go back and talk about that a little bit. In the year following the earthquake and fire of 1906, San Francisco was a city preoccupied. Refugees had to be fed and settled into temporary housing. The commercial and real estate and retail structure and much of the city's residential sections had to be rebuilt. With all that going on, another disaster in the making didn't rate mention in the newspapers, or if it did, was well buried. Seaman Oscar Tomei on the tugboat Wizard fell ill. Taken to the Marine Hospital, he lapsed into a coma and could not tell doctors anything to explain his symptoms. Analysis showed that he contracted the plague bacteria, which had been identified prior to the earthquake and fire. It was thought to have been eradicated. On May 29, 1907, Tomei died. The Wizard having left port, doctors were unable to interview the crew about Tomei. Attempts to get in touch with the vessel were fruitless. Steaming north up the Mendocino coast, the Wizard was caught in a storm and sank. All that was known is that somehow the plague had returned. Let's get into our other items of today. On this date in 1453, Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, falls to the Turks under Muhammad II, ending the Byzantine Empire. Of course, now we know that Constantinople is Istanbul, not Constantinople. So if you have a date in Constantinople, she'll be waiting for you in Istanbul. Even Old New York was once called New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. It was in 1849 that President Abraham, not president yet, Abraham Lincoln said, "You can fool some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all the people all of the time." It was on this date in 1851 that Sojourner Truth addressed the first Black Women's Civil Rights Convention in Akron, Ohio. It was in 1864 that Mexican Emperor Maximilian arrived in Veracruz. Now, this brings up an interesting point. People often ask why I am the Emperor of the United States as well as the Protector of Mexico. Well, the reasons why I'm Emperor of the United States are quite obvious, but the Protector of Mexico part tends to confuse people. So let's do a little bit of background on that and talk about Maximilian. After a distinguished career in the Austrian army as its commander, he accepted an offer by Napoleon III of France to rule Mexico. France, together with Spain and the United Kingdom, invaded the Mexican Republic in the winter of 1861 ostensibly to collect debts. The Spanish and British both withdrew the following year after negotiating agreements with Mexico's Republican government, while France sought to conquer the country. Seeking to legitimize French rule, Napoleon III invited Maximilian to establish a new pro-French Mexican monarchy. With the support of the French army and a group of Conservative Party monarchists hostile to the Liberal Party administration of the new Mexican president Benito Juarez, Maximilian was offered the position of Emperor of Mexico. The empire managed to gain the recognition of several European powers, including Britain, Austria, and Prussia. The United States, however, continued to recognize Juarez as the legal president of Mexico. Maximilian never completely defeated the Mexican Republic. Republican forces led by Juarez continued to be active during Maximilian's rule. With the end of the American Civil War in 1865, the United States, which had been too distracted by its own conflict to respond to the Europeans' 1861 invasion, in what it considered to be within its sphere of influence, began providing explicit aid to Juarez's forces. Matters worsened for Maximilian after French armies withdrew from Mexico in 1866. His empire collapsed, and he was captured and executed by the Mexican government, which then restored the Mexican Republic. And that's why we are the protector of Mexico. Always remember. It was in 1886 that American chemist John Pemberton begins to advertise Coca-Cola. By the way, if you ever go to Atlanta, avoid the Coca-Cola Museum. It was on this date in 1913 that Igor Stravinsky's ballet score, The Rite of Spring, premieres in Paris, provoking a riot. 1919, Albert Einstein's theory of relativity that when light passes a large body, gravity will bend the rays, was confirmed by Arthur Eddington's expedition to photograph a solar eclipse on the island of Principe, West Africa. It was on this date in 1935 the French liner Normandy began its maiden voyage and arrived in New York City on June 3rd. The Normandy is a personal favorite of ours. I wish we had gotten to sail on it. It was beautiful, lots of Lalique glass. The ship of light. If you've never seen pictures of the Normandy, do look for them. We're going to post a couple here, but oh, what a gorgeous ship. What a pity that it was destroyed, unfortunately. It was on this date in 1942 that Bing Crosby records White Christmas. It would go on to become the world's best-selling single with an estimated 100 million copies sold. It was on this date in 1853 that Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay are the first to reach the summit of Mount Everest. Today, by the way, is Tenzing Norgay's birthday, so happy birthday to him. It was on this date in 1987 that Michael Jackson attempted to buy the remains of the Elephant Man. 1989, student pro-democracy protesters in Tiananmen Square, China, construct a replica of the Statue of Liberty, naming it the Goddess of Democracy. There is a quarter-scale duplicate of that statue in Portsmouth Square here in San Francisco. Let's get to our births this day. 1903, Bob Hope, the great entertainer. 1917, President John F. Kennedy. 1953, Danny Elfman, composer, member of the band Oingo Boingo, but you probably know him best, as the composer for the opening credits to The Simpsons. Also on this date, in 1958, actress Annette Bening. 1961, musician Melissa Etheridge. 1967, Noel Gallagher of the band Oasis. And 1984, actress Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black. Well, our guests for today include a 1911 William S. Gilbert from Gilbert and Sullivan, the writer of so many wonderful comic operettas like The Mikado, The Pirates of Penzance, HMS Pinafore. It was in The Yeoman that he wrote the line, "Is life a boon? If so, it must befall that death, whene'er he call, must call too soon." 1979, the death of America's sweetheart, Mary Pickford, one of the great stars of the silent era, also co-founder of United Artists. 1997, George Fenneman, a name that may not be familiar to you unless you were a fan of Groucho Marx's show, You Bet Your Life. He was the announcer, also, until fairly recently, the most famous graduate of San Francisco State University. 1998, former senator and presidential candidate Barry Goldwater. 2004, Watergate prosecutor Archibald Cox. 2008, one of the funniest men ever to live, Harvey Korman, in addition to the Carol Burnett show. Wasn't he brilliant in Blazing Saddles? Headley. And 2010 actor, director Dennis Hopper. Well, that wraps it up for today. Again, welcome to all of our new viewers. Spread the word. We want to get these videos to go viral. It would help if I could learn how to talk properly. Anyway, until we meet again, stay safe, stay healthy, stay inside. If you go outside, wear a mask. There are new social distancing regulations here in San Francisco. Be smart, don't be stupid, don't take unproven remedies for ailments that don't work for them. And until we meet again, stay kind to one another. A gracious good day.